use that also for your reflection of the session.
Good. Oh, wonderful. So welcome again. Thank you for making this morning. We decided to initiate this little conversation because we're about to land in Kenya with Motherland after a long time of preparation. This is, from my part, going to be a little bit improvised because Diana, who was going to co-lead this session together with Kat, is not here. So I'm trying to take over her part. But Kat will step in a minute. I was asked, and Sebastian and I were asked to open with the description of the history of Motherland, the inception, where does it come from? And while doing that, I also want to guide us through what we want to achieve at the session. So our goal is to introduce what Motherland is and does and wants to do, and B, learn from you what potential challenges might be on the ground as we're doing our first pilot starting in December in Kenya, and how and if you could see yourself, your organization, contributing to making this a success. So roughly 2.5, 3 years ago, Sebastian and I set out to start learning from the Motherland. That's what we call as our series of sessions, where the first thing we encountered was that our Western hubris led us to believe that there was something that we could bring to the table from Europe, like technology, things like that, just to find out that that was utter nonsense, because everything that's needed is already there. We further then went deeper into the conversation and learnings in order to understand how can we engage with local communities to make these more self-reliant and self-sufficient. Because we strongly believe that this is something that needs to happen all over the planet for many, maybe all communities, to get closer to the sources of energy, so to say. Energy for human life is food, and that's why we started with agriculture. Now, what we discovered in many, many conversations, conferences, all online, all during COVID, was that there are some especially fragile situations around the post-harvest value chain. And it seems to be that that's the case all over Africa. So what we settled on was, what if we could bring startups from all over Africa together with farmers from all over Africa to solve the post-harvest value chain issues they are encountering, which usually are around market access and market intelligence, storage, distribution, and of course refinement, because that's where the majority of the markup happens. And all of that glued together with learning. And we managed to put together a small round of funding for a nonprofit, which is not very easy without a concrete product. And that's just enough to run a first pilot in Kenya, so that we can now prove our assumptions and our learnings from the last 2.5, 3 years. Maybe before I pass the word to Sebastian, a couple of sentences about myself. I've been building digital platforms for more than 20 years, almost 25 now. in the form of for-profits and non-profit organizations, and always towards trying to contribute towards make the planet a good place. And Sebastian and I have been doing a lot of stuff together in the years, over the years, and this is one of our babies that are closest to our hearts, Motherland. So with that, Sebastian, over to you, and then on to Kat for the remainder of the session.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas, for the introduction to yourself, but also to Motherland, which you said is close to our hearts. And I can just emphasize this not enough. Yeah, doing this now for more than 2 years, and just give you a little background to myself. So I have more than 20 years of entrepreneurial experience, mainly in the transformational space, so working with corporations, startups, organizations, setting up ecosystems and the like, which resulted in many successful projects along the way. But for the last 4 years, I'm really interested in how to build an economy that no longer monetizing negative external effects, but really switching to an economy that is realizing and monetizing positive external effects. And by doing this, I had the chance to work with a lot of companies, young companies in the global South. And what I learned is that something we refer to, especially in the global North, when we talk about those countries, in the global South, as developing countries. And actually, I think that is true. They're developing, but we have the wrong counterpart to it, as that we are saying in the global North, we are developed, which we aren't. We are also should be developing countries. And this is something I learned, that the developing countries actually are more progressive, than we in the global North. And we should look up to the countries in the global South, which are developing, and we call themselves developing countries. And we in the global North should become developing countries as well. And that's why Motherland is really, really important and paramount for us to learn from the global South, and how to build this self-sufficient and self-reliant communities. And so this is also why this whole pilot of Motherland is not just doing something, so to say, good for Africa, but it's really also an important learning journey for Thomas and myself. And but having said that, it's not about us. So Thomas and myself, we are standing really in the back and try to support our local team, as good as possible. And we are focusing on empowering the people, but also focusing on the topics of fundraising to make that whole thing scale in the end. And unfortunately, Diana, the third part from the German side, is not available to join us today. But we are happy to have Kat here. She is going to lead the team on the ground in her very own community where she grew up, in the Seaya County and close to Lake Victoria, and therefore to dive deeper on her background, and also her perspective on Motherland, I'd like to hand over now to Kat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. Hello, how are you all? I'm seeing at least some guests are joining us in. So my name is Sylvester Catherine, and I am 27. I am a mother, and I'm a psychologist. I have a degree in psychology from Moore University, and I'm also a certified addiction counselor by NACADA. And it's my passion for humanity that has pushed me through this other side of opportunity. So I'm a person who is very positive and about every aspect of life. And the main thing that provides meaning in my life is ensuring the well-being of people and also making positive change. however small, in our communities. And that is how I found myself with Motherland. You know, Motherland has came up with a dream, and they're in Africa, and they're in Kenya, and they're in Siaya. And I'm part of Siaya community, and I'm going to be part of that journey. Yeah. So yeah, we are very lucky, I'd say that, as African, to have a project and a program like this. And the truth is, a lot of projects come up, a lot of programs come up, and who wants to do the same thing, or maybe a different thing, but end up with the same goal. Yeah, so I'm very happy to be part of Motherland. I'm very happy to work with Motherland and for Motherland, to work with the community and for the community. And this is just a fight for us as a whole. And I'm glad that we are joined with my fellow Kenyans, and they'll agree that right now we have a menace of starvation and hunger in some parts of the country. People literally don't have food. And that is something that is very painful even to hear. Yeah, it's very painful to hear. And with the programs like this, with you know, like-minded people like us, like we are, we can, you know, help fight this menace in one way or another, hold hands in one way or another. Yeah, so as for now, I'd like to leave at that and maybe have introduction from our guests before we continue. I don't know who will start us off from our guests.
Oh, okay. Hi, let me start off because my device is almost going off. Sorry, I'm in the field, and I didn't really manage to charge my devices. So I also hope there'll be some recording. So my name is Calvin Sokelo. I work with smallholder farmers across Kenya to improve their productivity and income. So our company is called M Shamba, and we're working with farmers, also communities in Siaya County, as she's also mentioned. So we support farmers with digital extension services and also market access. So farmers produce from market to farm. That means they are able to produce with a particular market in mind. And so this revolutionizes and changes the kind of smallholder production going on in our country, and really makes farming more profitable to the smallholder farmer. We are currently working directly with over 120,000 farmers across Kenya, and I'm so glad to be part of this. So thank you, and yes, over to the next person.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Ian, will you be next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Sorry for joining a little bit late. I will have to also leave at 1:45. But I am Ian Isherwood. I work for WWF Kenya. I run the origination facility for the Dutch Fund for Climate and Development. We basically look for projects that we can invest in and support that are in one way or another attached to a theme such as water and sanitation, food security, and several others, two others. I won't dive a little bit deeper, but priority is Kenya. We've invested or supported about three companies so far in Kenya, some in Uganda, elsewhere around Africa. There's a big team. My other colleague, Comfrey, is here as well. I'm sure he's already introduced himself, but yeah, looking forward to hearing more about what you guys are up to.
Thank you so much. Comfrey, if you can hear us.
Yeah, hi, I already introduced myself, but I can go again. My name is Comfrey Alianji, and I lead innovation at WWF Kenya.
Then we have Jahil Oliver.
Hey, everybody. Jahil Oliver here. I'm the founder and CEO of Hello Tractor. We're an agricultural technology company that connects smallholder farmers to farm equipment owners. And we do that through a digital marketplace and a GPS-enabled fleet management tool that our farm equipment owners use to monitor and manage their equipment as it's going far distances to service these small farmers. We currently service 1.7 million acres in our marketplace, owned and managed by 623,000 smallholder farmers. And Kenya is where I'm right now, and Nairobi is home for me. Nice to meet everybody.
Cool.
Nice to meet you too.
So as some more people have joined, yeah, maybe I do a quick recap of what Motherland is doing and planning to do. So because Ian just joined. And so we had a participatory journey in learning about how to utilize technology, entrepreneurship and innovation to drive the development of African people towards self-sufficiency and self-reliant. And that was really starting in the beginning and then coming up. And we focused on the post-harvest value chain, yeah, because we saw a lot of losses going on here and inefficiencies, etc. And we also learned from our African peers that it's really needed to develop the market, because only if you develop the market, you in the end can give more opportunities also for the farmers, not only to become more self-sufficient and self-reliant, but also serve the market and develop also up the value chain. Yeah, and that was also one other important observation. Yeah, that a lot of the things that are produced in Africa are for export. Yeah, and the value creation is taking place not in Africa, but all over the world. And we need to bring more of this value creation directly to the community to create more and better jobs and opening opportunities for entrepreneurs within the communities, yeah, which is then the foundation for economic development. And as we are not going to build anything ourselves, yeah, we made a large research, yeah, across Africa to identify startups that are already addressing the issues. Yeah, because if there are challenges, entrepreneurs will try to solve them. And we found more than 200 of those startups tackling the issues in the post-harvest value chain. But when we talked to them, we also had to learn that if they cannot go to most of the rural communities, because most of the infrastructure isn't just there, yeah, to host and start their service. And that's why we came up with the idea to be kind of an orchestrator, yeah, to bring holistic solutions, yeah, into a community, yeah, saying, for example, one solution is for logistics, one is for market matching, one is for learning, and one is for financing this kind of new processing facilities, etc. And we have all the solutions from digital startups already there. And but if you only bring one solution into a little village, yeah, then nothing is working, right? And we cannot utilize the value of the one solution. We always have to bring several solutions together. And this is what we're going to pilot now in the Sayaya County, and Kat is going to be the responsible person on the ground. She's coming from that community where we're going to run the pilot. Yeah, and the next step would be to identify the challenges, yeah, and define them, and then figuring out what kind of startups we want to bring and their solutions to this very community. And then working on the implementation of those startup solutions within the community. Yeah, and this is what the next 6 months will be all about. And we are also collaborating with a little grant with GIZ. Yeah, but we have all the freedom to do it the way we like to do it. Yeah, they bring in some startups they have already worked with in Kenya. Yeah, with their SIZE program. And we have another foundation from Germany on the ground that is committed also to finance the team on the ground for a longer period. So we have kind of a good prospect and starting point for this whole project. Yeah, and we are even more lucky, which is probably more important than having the funding, yeah, having found Kat. Yeah, and she is going to be the one on the ground. And Diana, who cannot be in the call today, she has a long track record working with startups and entrepreneurial projects, mainly in Uganda. Yeah, and she's going to be the operational lead for bridging what we do and think here in Germany. And she's also going to be on the ground. But really in the foreground, it's Kat and her team. And that's why I like now to hand over again to Kat. And what this session also, like she said, will be all about, to get your feedback, yeah, and maybe the constraints you see, and maybe the ideas you have, to do something together, to collaborate, to bring that now into a good starting point to make this project fly and succeed. Yeah, and mainly probably not on the longer perspective, but mainly on the learning topics we need to do. And we really plan to build this as a nucleus, because if this is working with one of the communities, as we are working with digital technologies, yeah, it will be easy to scale then to the neighboring communities and also going to other areas in Kenya, yeah, and also Africa. This is what we are planning to do. And maybe one last thing to add, we are going to have partners as part of the program, also from Uganda and Nigeria and Sierra Leone, so that we are able to bring this program to other African countries, and we share the learnings along the way of this first pilot of Motherland with them, so that we have really an integrated learning journey, not only with this team in Siaya County in Kenya, but also bringing in more people from Africa to join this learning journey.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. Maybe
so
I can. No, it's okay.
So are there any questions regarding the program we have planned before we started the session more into, let's say, addressing maybe challenges and things like that? Good. So Kat.
Thank you. I just wanted to talk a little bit about Siaya County. So yeah, Siaya is in the Nyanza part of Kenya, and it has like 6 sub-counties. It has a black cotton soil, and some areas have alluvial soil, and agriculture forms the basis of food production and significantly contributes to the growth and wealth and creation of the county. So the agricultural practice includes crops, that is crops, livestock, and fisheries. And the main food crops is maize, sorghum, beans, cassava, sweet potatoes, fish millets, and then we have vegetables like tomatoes, onions, and kales. And then there are some areas that have cash crops like cotton, sugarcane, and groundnuts, and the fruits, pawpaw, mangoes, bananas. And the true, growing up in Siaya and agriculture being the basis of Siaya, there are those challenges that you even see. And because it forms the basis of Siaya County, and you find that sometimes that even maybe in terms of education, a parent can fail to come up with the money to pay for the school, for a son's or a daughter's school fees, and decide, okay, instead of giving you money, let me give you a bag of maize. And those are some of the things that happen. So you see how important farming is. And there's a lot of challenges that are there. Storage, find that there are inadequate facilities after post-harvest, or poor storage facilities at home. Then there's the issues of market and the selling prices and all that. And then, like, for example, when it comes to maize, shelling, some people use hand and some use putting maize in a sack and then you beat it. Yeah, and that leads to breakages. So there are a lot of challenges that are there, and having startups, because the main reason of Motherland is systematically understanding the challenges that communities are facing, and then match them with startups to tackle these challenges. Yeah. So there are a number of challenges, and it's not only in SEA. SEA is only our starting point. We are going to, we believe that we're going to impact so many communities in the country. SEA is only a starting point. And yeah, so maybe, you know, we would have loved to have at least breakout rooms so that we can discuss them, but because we are not more, we are few, we are just going to have discussions here as a whole. Yeah, so maybe we can start by, do you think it's a good idea? Maybe our guests can tell us, do you think it's a good idea to have Motherland in Africa, to have this drive in Africa? Maybe you can maybe help us with that. Do you think it's a good idea? Anyone?
Sure, yeah, I'll go. So I know just very basics from what I've been shared with from Sebastian and also this call. My understanding is we're looking to connect certain startups or opportunities with more grassroots level organizations. So something that might spring to mind might be refrigerated solar containers on farms, et cetera, et cetera. Is that correct? Just so that I'm on the right page.
So that could be. So when we look at the systemic challenges that such communities face, you probably start with post-harvest processing. Yeah, so that could be cooling storage, but that could also be just having a dry sack, yeah, and a waiting device, yeah, and things like that. Or if you have other crops, you need a processing of the crops, and maybe even creating, let's say, how to create ketchup out of tomatoes, yeah, to have less loss, for example, from tomatoes, as a simple example. Therefore, you need processing devices, yeah, and then you have this knowledge about how to do that. So you need a learning solution, yeah, because without a learning solution, it's not going to work. Yeah, and then we need a financing solution to finance the processing facilities. And then it's about, okay, is there a market for what I'm able to sell? Yeah, so we need a market matching solution, which is already there. Yeah, to find the right off-taker, paying a decent price for my produce, so that me as a farmer is not getting ripped off by someone paying a way too low price, so that I have better market intelligence. Then you probably need a logistics solution, because you have to ship your produce to the off-taker if the off-taker is not able to take care of that. This is another startup. And just talking about those 5 bits and pieces, yeah, is normally not coming from one startup, yeah, but we need to integrate them, yeah, to make it really work for the community. Because if we just solve, let's say, the cooling, yeah, we have an investing for a cooling container, which is a hell of money for such a community if it's not paid by some development organization, yeah, and why should they do that, right? And how to utilize it and how to make that work economically. And therefore, we need the other bits and pieces to make this investment work. And we are trying to facilitate this whole process by supporting what do we need, what kind of a solution we are going to implement. And then the team of CAT on the ground is facilitating the implementation of this digital solution to make it work. And this could really end up, like you said, in some a cooling container or PV facilities, yeah, but we are not bringing in the money. Actually, we are bringing in the solution to make such a finance, yeah, via a crowdfunding solution, for example, work, but also validating how to put that together with the other bits and pieces to make it work systemically for the community, so that we don't invest into such containers that are going to be the next white elephants in some rural communities that are not going to be utilized like they should.
Thanks for that. And is this for profit? No.
So in the beginning, I think it's not feasible to set it up for profit. Yeah, because it will take some time to validate this approach, but there is a potential to make it work, let's say, sufficiently to have a team to scale that up. Yeah, but we don't aim to have a highly profitable business. It's more like being driven by the communities, like CAT, and that the communities own it and are able to run it sufficiently themselves. And therefore, yes, there are going to be a certain cash flows from the startups, for example, because what we do in the end is business development for the startups, right? And so if we develop business for the startups and we also talk to the startups, they're also willing to give a revenue share to the organization of Motherland. But this needs to be now validated, and this is the first step that we do with this pilot in Siaya County in Kenya.
Let me back that up a little bit. And Jahil, I saw that you raised your hand, but I just want to say a couple of sentences to that. So we believe that this ultimately must be an infrastructure that's owned by the people. It should be a commons to have access to a good life. Having said that, scaling this is very unlikely to be successful with a non-profit model only. So during the scaling phase, we see that there could be for-profit spin-off organizations that spin it up in a certain region, a nation, etc. With the prospect of exiting to the community. That would be the optimal solution for us. Jahil.
Thanks, everybody. And I like the kind of spirit of this discussion and the distribution of ownership, particularly in agriculture, where what you find globally, not just in the region, is farmers benefit the least from food production. Couple observations. We work very closely with organizations building community-based networks. One of the most expensive parts of our business is farmer acquisition in the marketplace, finding small, low-income farmers who are willing and able to pay for these services that we're discussing. And it's important to draw a distinction between a commercial smallholder farmer and a subsistence level farmer who's not actively investing in productivity enhancing inputs and services. And so we go through existing channels primarily for our farmer acquisition. And there are examples of these community-based organizations that do great work. One group that has done a phenomenal job here in Kenya, and I know they work across multiple countries, but the Kenya team in particular has been very successful, and I think it could be a useful case study, is under the World Food Program, they established the Farm to Market Alliance, and the Kenya team has been amazing. And we know that because they have been the agents that work with farmers in their community to bring them access to not just tractor services through Hello Tractor, but a bundling of services from storage, hermetically sealed bags, improved seed varieties, fertilizer, all the things that are fairly standard in more mature agricultural economies. These agents have these agent networks have come together through this Farm to Market Alliance. They've been trained on how to use digital technologies to, like Hello Tractor, to access the inputs. And then they also negotiate at economies of scale because they all can come together and say, instead of me buying 7 bags of fertilizer for my farmers in Siaya County, I can negotiate with all the agents under this umbrella network and negotiate for lower prices. We launched the finance program back in January, and we finance at least 25 of these agents, and you qualify for financing for us through, all of our borrowers don't have bank relationships and, credit histories and all that. They qualify by having at least 1,200 acres of smallholder demand booked in the app. And that's what we underwrite. And I mean, think about it, they've had at least 25 borrowers out of this network qualify, and now they're tractor owners. So they went from just booking tractor services to graduating to now owning a $40,000 tractor and servicing a minimum of 1,200 acres per year with that tractor. That's an amazing kind of growth story. And I think it illustrates the power of working through these established networks of entrepreneurs that are really, really willing to go after it and in service of their community in alignment with these commercial goals, because that's where you get the sustainability. So that was the first observation. The second one was we launched this bags to bulk strategy where we're looking at things like storage to avoid post-harvest loss. I mean, if you look at things like, if you compare yields in Africa to the OECD countries, we're at about 25% of the yield that are established in these more mature markets when you look at metric tons per hectare across the key commodities. But so we're underproducing, right? But then our post-harvest losses average, depending on the crop, they can go as high as 50%. So you underproduce and then you lose half of what you grow. In the OECD countries, you will never see double-digit post-harvest loss. It just wouldn't happen. You got grains, you got silos set up for grain and seed. You got, cold storage. I think that was mentioned earlier. And there are ways to introduce those same technologies. We've been working with some entrepreneurs in these markets to say, look, we got in Seaya County, we got 50,000 growers that are mechanized or commercial, which means they've already signaled they're willing to invest in their fields. And if you introduce storage, we can help socialize those concepts. You invest in the stores. That's your job as an entrepreneur. We can maybe help you connect you with Motherland or some other source of capital. But if you put that silo up, we'll connect you with 50,000 growers in the maize and rice value chain to fill up those silos. And I think that's a practical example of how you can use these existing businesses that are in the market that have synergies to come together and say, look, I'm not in the storage business. I'm Hello Tractor. That sounds like we're Uber for tractors. That's more like Airbnb for grain, right? Like that's not our business, but the same farmer that's using Uber for tractors, where they need to get to the Airbnb for grain. So let's share that farmer network and be protective of customer data. We don't share data unless the customers opt into it. But if it's a real value add, that tends to not be a problem, right? And then you can layer on the storage and you can layer on warehouse receipts to address liquidity constraints that our growers have, why they sometimes sell into markets when the prices are incredibly low. And so, it's a lot of things that can be done, but I think there's number one, case studies on where it's worked in the past, a la World Food Program Farm to Market. And there are ways to partner with the existing ecosystem that's finding traction in certain areas and work with them to say, look, you care about your farmers, we're bringing storage solutions. So let's figure out a way to work together.
Thank you for that, Jahel. I don't know if there's anyone else with something to say, to add on that. Perfect.
And I forgot to mention, I got to pick my daughter up in like 10 minutes. So I wanted to get that out because I got to bounce. I leave the office in like 10 minutes to pick up my daughter. And it's like a parent-daughter parent thing that's destroying my workday right now. But anyway.
No, don't call it distraction. There's actually in my company, my software company, people say when they leave the office early, they say, I'm going to pick up Noah as a because that's what I used to say every time I went to pick up my son.
Yeah.
So it's totally legit.
It's legit. It's legit.
I just want, my connection isn't so great, but I wanted to just say I like the vision of Motherland and what you're doing. So of course, in conservation is something an area we're interested in. WWF works in 4 landscapes. That is south of Kenya, which is in Taita County, Kajiado, and Narok, where the Masai Mara is. Then coastal Kenya, and Kenya Rift Lake, which is in Naivasha, Nakuru County, all the way to Baringo, and that part of the world is where we support farmers, especially who are participating in agroforestry. We've tried different innovation. I remember last year, WWF tried to partner with Envy, which is a venture builder, to come up with a regenerative agriculture studio, a company that will actually come up with also ventures like Hello Tractor, among others, or M-Shamba, that will actually work on a regenerative agriculture value chain. So we'll be very interested to see how you are actually meeting, doing conservation agriculture, and also just providing livelihoods for people, and also just advocating for climate change as you do this type of work. So I think that will be an interesting area we will come in, and would be happy to also share more information on what we do and how. And Ian is here. I know he's working on DFCD, which was looking for more bigger ventures who are working on conservation agriculture that are bankable and can actually receive financing. And so maybe any of your companies that is doing that might also maybe talk to him. But also that is also changing very fast on how they are doing it because of his experience working with over now 200 companies or ventures right now, because they look at very high level companies. Maybe Jahil is there, but we'll see. Yeah, so I'm happy to listen to you and just see the vision. I'm still just, I have your profile, one pager. I'll continue to study, and I would like to hear more about the other ventures you're actually working with, and especially how you are combining the conservation agriculture aspect, sustainable production and consumption part of things.
So thank you for mentioning this conservation aspect, because we absolutely believe that the future of agriculture in Africa will rely on regenerative practices. Because it will be paramount that we conserve nature and the functions of nature and don't do many mistakes, which we are going to scale back now in the northern part of the world, with our big scale agriculture. And because of the structure of the agriculture in Africa, it's really it's an opportunity to leapfrog the development of the North, and then jumping directly into this regenerative practices, but also thinking about, okay, how to make them scale and work to go up in production, and looking really at the systemic value chain to make it work for the people sustainably. And this is at the core of how we want to do it. And that's why we also try to be as independent as possible from any larger organization for the moment, because we don't want to have any mission drift in what we do. But as we now, the next step will be to really define the challenge together with our team on the ground, and then we can name the startups and the solutions we are going to work with, and which we then going to implement and validate. And I think this is something we are going to continuously share with you, and we are going to have this kind of sessions on an ongoing basis, because it will be a participatory learning journey for all of us, and to make it really work and scale. And so that's why we also like to invite you to stay connected, definitely with Motherland, and we're going to put you into our mailing list, and then invite you to follow up sessions with Motherland.
Thank you so much.
I was just going to add, there are some groups that have built financial incentives to encourage things like regenerative agriculture, conservation agriculture. ACELI, ACELI is one that comes to mind. They provide first loss kind of bonuses for credits aligned to these both environmental, but also social outcomes, like a gender balanced portfolio. And then within our work, we finance, within the first 6 months of launching our credit program this year, we've done about $5 million in loans, and over a quarter of those loans went for CA. That's direct seeding, that's ripping. So this is conservation agriculture for both climate resilience, but also carbon sequestration. And we did that by providing underwriting incentives. So if you're a booking agent who's looking to qualify for a loan by booking farmers in your community, and again, once you reach 1,200 acres, you qualify, right, for a loan. You don't need a banking history. In fact, none of our customers have it. But you have to pay 5% down on the loan, which is a lot, right? Now, if you book 1,200 acres of CA, and we track it through the technology, so there's no like getting around it. If you book 1,200 acres of conservation agricultural mechanization work, we waive the 5% down payment, right? And the minute we did that, we started to see a significant increase in farmers adopting CA, because these people in the community who have influence, who have relationship capital, and now a financial incentive to share the learnings that we push to them, they can trigger that behavior change. And without the 5% down payment waiver, they wouldn't be able to own a tractor, because it's 5% of 40,000. Like, I don't even have that kind of money, right? So once you give the waiver, we started to see a significant increase. And we've seen this, the CGIAR and a lot of the big research institutions push CA for a number of years. We've been collaborating with them for a number of years, FAO, UNEFAD, all these folks, and nobody would adopt this stuff. The minute we put the financial incentives in place, immediately we saw a significant growth in that activity. And I think that's a learning too, especially in capital constrained environments with no liquidity. If you're bringing cash, make sure you align that capital, even if it's commercial, right? Or maybe even slightly below commercial, but capital is such a resource, you can use it as an incentive for the behavior change, like promoting CA or regenerative agriculture. And that's something that when my team told me the numbers, I honestly, it blew my mind. I didn't think it would do much. I was like, we've been trying to do no-till for years. Like, is that gonna happen? The minute we did the down payment waiver, I'm saying over 25%, somewhere we're sitting at around 28%.
Wow. I just posted a link because I know you have to bounce. It's about using various forms of capital, since you mentioned social, and using them for something called the gross community product, which should be only based on financial capital, in our opinion. So would love to touch base on these kinds of thoughts and, get your insights and learnings into that. That would be super valuable for us.
Sweet. Yeah, I got it pulled up now. I'm gonna read it on my way to picking up my shorty. All right, everybody. All right. Happy Friday. Cool. Thanks for inviting us. Pleasure having you. Part of this. Yeah, we're happy to support as best we can.
Cool. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Have fun with
all right, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye. So I can see we are only remaining with country. Are you guys?
So there's another meeting I have to go to at 2 actually, which with Ian. So I'll have to go now. Yeah, but I'm very, very much interested to hear, because conservation agriculture is an area we are focusing on, and especially is areas of Amboseli, Loitoktok, like the landscape where WWF works. So we don't work in Siaya, but if you are looking at those particular areas, Naivasha, Taita Taveta, and then we'll be happy to talk. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
So stay in touch. Thank you so much for being there, and all your comments and ideas, and highly appreciated.
Totally.
See you.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.